Hello, everybody. This is Trevor Golding, Brandon, and Jay with the Super Sentai Power Hour podcast. Welcome.
I believe you forgot someone, dear buddy.
Oh, and Anthony. My bad.
Anthony is here as well. How you doing, guys?
My bad. All right.
Not a problem.
So, today we are talking about a very important era of Power Rangers history, what started it all, the Zordon Era. So I figured we'd get together as many people as possible that have decent opinions on the era in question and hash it out, as it were. So those of you who have been with us since the first episode know that we did Mighty Morphin and Jew Ranger already. So we will start out with the second and third seasons of Mighty Morphin. So,
absolutely.
So, in terms of, let's start off, since we're all American here, we might as well start off with the American side of things. Season 2 of Mighty Morphin definitely was a big change. Some for the better, others not so much. So, the biggest thing was, obviously, that when they realized they were running out of Zhu footage and everything, and they realized it wasn't going to last forever, they needed to think of more toys to sell, per se. But I guess they didn't want to change too much, because then it would probably lose their target audience, or like the loyal fans that have been there from the beginning. So instead of bringing over the Dire Ranger suits, they decided that these new Thunder Powers were upgrades to the original Zords, which I thought was a nice touch and stuff like that. It makes sense why, Zach and the others would keep their traditional uniforms and stuff like that. I really like Season 2. A lot of my favorite episodes from MMPR come from Season 2, like the Wannabe Ranger, Putty on the Brain, Bloom of Doom. Yeah. Coincidentally, all of those episodes were released on VHS, so maybe that's why I have such fond memories of them. Right, because I've seen them more than the majority of the other ones. So
yeah, it did make their morphing a mouthful. Like
every sword calls, yes. Thunderzord power. Thunderzord power.
Yeah, like they're combining, and I'm like, well, that's a lot to, now they're doing everything with all that now to say. I was like, oh, that's a lot. They didn't pick one; they just combined the two.
Yeah. One thing that I thought was cool, how they were able to edit it around, but it must have been a little confusing for some fans, or like some smart fans must have picked up on this. I like to think of like the earlier episodes of Season 2 when they still had Zhu footage, and you can tell it's definitely stock footage, but it's not footage from Zhu Ranger. It was just footage used specifically for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. A lot of times during the Zord fights, since they still had Dragon Zord, but they had an upgraded Megazord now, they couldn't use regular Megazord anymore, was like basically whenever they would get shot, like it would be edited out with a little bit of smoke, so you couldn't see all of Megazord, but you could still sort of tell. Like if you look closely enough, like particularly Wannabe Ranger comes to my mind about this. Like you can see when Dragon Zord and supposedly the Thunder Megazord are fighting, you can see it's still Megazord behind there, but in a reverse angle, you see Thunder Megazord using its finishing attack, and then at a reverse angle, you never see them in the same shot. The Thunder Sword and the monster get obliterated by it. I like to call that reverse angle syndrome.
Because of the Zhu footage, they were still using the Daijujin, the original Megazord. They didn't know that they were going to be upgrading to the Megazord.
Yeah, a lot of things, I guess, got lost in post-production. But yeah, as far as Season 2, I think, like I said, there was a lot of change going on with Season 2. Particularly, I think they were relying less and less, or trying to rely less and less on Sentai footage.
Yeah.
As, evidenced in those episodes. And Season 3, don't even get me started on Season 3 yet. We'll get to that. But yeah, I also think Season 2 is when it officially became the Tommy Oliver show. I mean, as big of a fan I am of Tommy, Like,
Yeah.
a lot of stories were written around him, particularly when he was losing his powers, when he became the White Ranger.
Yeah,
All of a sudden, it
like all the
became.
green no more stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Hey, some of those episodes were the best from the season, personally.
yeah,
Oh yeah. There's a reason why so many people put Tommy in such high esteem. I mean, he's a good leader. He's a good ranger in general.
Yeah,
Um,
but it's also because the producers and everything, they capitalized on his popularity, and it's like, you want Tommy? Well, we'll give you Tommy.
yeah.
Some
I
ate it
mean,
up, others probably got sick of it, I can
it
imagine.
it
So,
worked.
The thing about Tommy is, if you look at the first season, if Tommy isn't in it, there wasn't much of an overarching story.
Yeah, I mean,
mhm.
Green with Evil series was like that 5 episodes in that first bit. It was just incredible. Adding him in that whole storyline was like my favorite thing. But I remember seeing it live because I watched it live, and when Tommy lost his powers and they were revealing like the White Ranger. As a kid, I didn't know it was gonna be Tommy, and I was pissed. I was mad that there was this other Ranger and Tommy wasn't around anymore. I was like, no, I don't care that he looks cool. It's like this is crap. I don't want another Ranger. And then so when it was Tommy, I was thrilled. Like I remember as a kid, I was like, yes, like what? So later on, I did kind of get, start to get sick of the fact that it was always all about him. But as a kid, I ate it right up. Yeah,
yeah,
For sure.
I would think
Yeah,
most kids would. I mean,
yeah,
you have that arc of, oh, who's gonna be the new ranger, and they
yeah,
they did
all of a sudden, that character they added in, Richie, he seemed really pointless all of a sudden.
And I don't know if it's true, but Ryan, the guy who played Ryan Steele, I forgot the guy's name.
Oh, yes, Brad Hawkins. Yes, I did hear about that. So go ahead, say, Brandon, since you're the one who was trying to bring it.
Supposedly, Tommy, well, Jason David Frank, he was going to originally be in VR Troopers, and Brad
At the
Hawkins
time, it was called Cybertron.
Cybertron, and Brian Hawkins
well, I
was
lost my connection.
possibly going to be the White Ranger, but because of fan demand, they brought Tommy in to be White Ranger, and Brad Hawkins got in VR Troopers.
They might as well have just traded helmets and walked across the other door across the hallway.
Exactly
And
right.
it's also interesting to note that Cybertron was originally supposed to be a single hero show. VR Troopers seasons 1 and 2, they're actually a mashup of two different Metal Hero series. That's why you would usually see a lot of stock footage of Caitlin and JB's together, but not with a lot with Ryan, because Ryan would usually be working on his own, and the reason for that is because Caitlin and JB's footage came from Spielbahn, and Ryan's footage came from Metalder. And then with season 2 of VR Troopers, it was a new suit that Ryan got, and that was from an even older Metal Hero series, Space Sheriff Scheider, I believe it's pronounced.
Which I'm going to be doing the costume of.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I've made an Avon helmet. I'm going to be painting it blue to make it into Ryan Steele.
Nice. Yeah, but that was the thing that they ended up doing a few more times in the Zordon era. I mean, in Zeo they did something like that with revealing Jason as the Gold Ranger.
Oh, that was my favorite.
Yeah, they gave us a lot of options of who it could be, couldn't it? But we'll get to Zeo later.
Yeah,
so
we'll get to
trying
Zeo
to stay
later,
on
but
to,
I just figured
stay
I'd
on.
mention.
Right, of course. No, that's an interesting story, honestly.
Yeah,
and Brad
and
Hawkins was actually the original voice of.
Didn't they try to do something?
There too.
Didn't they try to do something similar with that extra robot thing in Turbo?
The Phantom Ranger.
Yeah, or the Phantom Ranger, and
I always imagined him being Billy from Mighty Morphin.
I always wanted that to be a thing. Other fan theories speculated that he might be like Zordon's son or something like that. But, we never got the official reveal that we always wanted.
He's like Predator Ranger, he just... And the fact that he could still see everyone when no one else could. In that, when they made everyone disappear.
Very OP, if you ask me. So, season 2, like I said, some of the things they did with season 2, as much as everyone loves to talk about MMPR in a positive outlook, it's like, oh, it's the best season because it's the first. It's got all the iconic Rangers, this and that. The MMPR, listen, it has a lot of good things going for it, but it also has a lot of bad things. I mean, in season 2, yes, the writing was a little bit stronger. Like, they were trying to get a little less silly, but it still came off very, very corny. Like, some of those episodes, man. And especially what they did to Lord Zed. Lord Zed is probably one of the best things from season 2. He's an American complete creation and stuff like that. He didn't come from Die Ranger. And when you first see him in those first few episodes, he's a force to be reckoned with. But, as always, soccer moms complained about everything and got what they wanted. Oh, my kids are too scared of him. You got to tone him down a bit and this and that. That's why I started cracking jokes or like saying, we'll get them next time, and blaming his cronies and shit.
Supposedly, there was once a parent who complained and wrote a letter to Saban saying that their kids are calling him Lord Zed, which is offensive because only Jesus should be called Lord.
I remember that, actually.
Oh my god.
I remember that.
Happened.
I
actually totally forgot about that. I remember that happening. There's a big rush because I was raised Christian and my mom, she didn't have a problem with it. But it was, we heard about it all through the church. It was like Power Rangers and this Lord Zed guy.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, honestly.
Maybe kids today are having that with Lord Draken.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, season 2, probably my favorite season from the MMPR seasons. As far as its counterpart, Die Ranger, goes, I really, really, really like Die Ranger. And I know a lot of people put Die Ranger up there in their top 10 for Sentai seasons. So, for those of you who don't know, Die Ranger is about this clan from thousands of years ago, the Gorma clan, and they've been revived, and it's time to basically, like all villains do, take over the world. But there's this guy called Master Kaku who finds descendants of the original, of the last set of Die Rangers. Their names are Ryoma, Daigo, Shoji, Kazu, and Lin. And these guys weren't just chosen for any random reason. They can actually manipulate chi as they learn to levitate and manipulate chi blasts. What else can they do? Oh, so many cool things.
In Die Ranger, wasn't the villain in his costume used to make Master Org from Wild Force?
The majority of his costume, yes, I believe it actually was taken and edited a little bit to use for Master Org. An interesting thing, that's another Power Rangers exclusive villain that we ended up getting here in the States. But yeah, Die Ranger and Zyuranger, they're very similar in nature because they're all about a magic theme or mystical theme of some sorts. Like, it's very spiritual. The Zords aren't robots. I should say mech. I'm sorry. Their mechs aren't robots per se. They're actually mystical beings and stuff like that can function on their own and stuff. And
Serpentera, wasn't Serpentera like a deity god type of being?
He was Serpentera. I forget his Sentai name, forgive me fans, but essentially he wasn't a bad guy per se. And the reason he wouldn't do much in MMPR is there was very limited footage of him from Die Ranger. He really only ever came out in Die Ranger to basically bring balance. Like, when battles between the Die Rangers and Gorma go too far, he steps in to put the balance right and stuff like that. Like, when it's getting too violent in one favor or another, he's not good or bad, he just is. He's just there to keep the balance. So
that's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I remember Die Ranger was one of the first Sentai seasons I watched after Gokaiger. And I just remember being like, "Oh wow, this would have been great as a second season for Power Rangers. They could have done a lot with it."
Yeah, definitely. Heck, I woun't have minded if just like the Rangers when they. I'm sorry, what were you saying, Jay?
They did because he said that they could have done a lot with the season 2, but I'm like, they did so much in season 2 already. Like, there's so much storyline compacted, and there's so many changes in season 2, you know, to where I'm like, I don't know if they can fit more into that season.
Well, I think what he's saying is that like there could have been some footage used if like some
like more
ideas
footage
came
used.
across. Like
Yeah.
For something that I always thought of once I found out what the Die Ranger suits looked like and stuff like that, maybe as a way to let them use more footage and stuff like that, much like how their Zords get upgrades, maybe when they needed extra power, they could call upon those suits and stuff like that, and
Like
then they could
the
start
metallic
fighting
armor.
new runs and stuff like that. What was that, Brandon?
Like the metallic armor from season 3.
Right, except this time it wouldn't be just glitter. It would be completely new suits and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Wait, with Zach, has anybody noticed my Ranger power up is the wrong color?
Oh yeah, like the.
There's a
I
simple
remember now. You're
explanation
bringing up Super Megaforce again, aren't you?
Yeah.
But yeah, Die Ranger, like I said, was a very mystical theme. It's very there's a lot of nods to actual Chinese history and stuff like that, which I think is real interesting. Now, would that have translated well into an American kids show? Probably not, because what do we care about other cultures here? And the other thing is that it is so serious and like, yeah, sure, like Super Sentai, it's still viewed as a kids show in Japan. But if you look at those older series, like from the 80s and 90s, you know, they were a little bit more adult then. You know, the cursing, the blood, and stuff like that. People die and stuff like that in Super Sentai. It's very rare when a Power Ranger.
I mean, in Die Ranger, the White Ranger is a kid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think what happened was over time, Sentai had to make it more kid friendly because they know that Power Rangers happens.
That may be the case, but I don't think it's the main reason they did that. No, I think a lot of things happen in Japan, you know, like natural earthquakes or tsunamis and stuff like that. So they got to tone things down a little bit for their crowd because that was a big thing that happened in O Ranger, which we'll get to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I like both. If you ask me which series I'm to watch from beginning to end, like which I would probably have a better time enjoying, probably Die Ranger, just because in order to appreciate season 2 of MMPR, you have to watch MMPR season 1, which, for better or worse, may be good, maybe not. It's a nostalgia trip for me personally, though.
Season 1 is one of those shows where if you've never seen it as a kid, you're not going to enjoy it as an adult.
Agreed. Agreed there.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, they got. As I said, they pushed. There's so many. So much storyline was. You know, the things barely lasted in season 2 for the. You know, they went from him losing his power as Green Ranger to getting the White Ranger power, and then them doing the ninja stuff. You know, like almost right after that.
Ninja stuff. Clever segue. I think, Trevor, should this be the time we talk about season 3 and its counterpart?
Yeah, definitely. Season 3. Season 3. I don't think I ever actually saw most of season 3. I saw season.
You're
not
a true fan.
I saw season 1. I saw season 2. I'm not sure I ever saw season 3, or at least I don't remember it.
Season 3 is probably my favorite out of the Mighty Morphin era.
It's, oddly enough, it's probably my least favorite, although it should be my favorite. And the reason for this is that there's a lot less filler going around in season 3. Like, most of the stories, like even standalone episodes, they do, continue into the next. Yep. It became a very serialized show. That being said, even though I do appreciate the serialized storytelling and stuff like that, sometimes the story that they were telling was just a bit redundant for me. And you guys, like Jay probably knows what I'm talking about here, because most of the stories started being written around Kimberly.
Yeah, there's a lot that's going on with Kim. But they, I don't know, for me personally, I loved the way season 3 started because, well, my brother and I especially, because we're already fans of Kamen Rider, the Masked Rider. Like, we love that. So when they started season 3, we were pumped. You know, we were like, we were freaking out because we didn't expect that. You know, we never know when they're going to do something like that.
Oh, you mean the whole Friend in Need 3-parter with Masked Rider?
Yeah,
that was a backdoor pilot for Masked Rider, from what people have told me.
Yeah, isn't that how they started season 3 of MMPR?
That is, yes. That's why the season 3 3-parter opener was the way it was, because it was setting you up for Masked Rider. So
yeah,
which I am always imagined people in Japan looking at it thinking it's a Kamen Rider Black RX, Blue Ranger and Die Ranger crossover.
Yeah, who knows what the hell Japanese people thought of that.
Right? They're like, what is happening? What is happening over here?
If you think we're confused watching Sentai, imagine Japanese people watching Power Rangers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, man. Oh god, they probably think it's so dumb. Well, not every season, because I've heard, believe it or not, I heard a lot of people prefer Lost Galaxy to Gingaman, and that's even coming from Japan itself.
Yeah,
like, they actually acknowledge that Lost Galaxy is a much better told story, which I think is crazy, but awesome at the same time.
Galaxy's my favorite Ranger season, so I could approve that.
But yeah, as far as season 3 goes, like, as odd as that opener was, like, for A Friend in Need and stuff like that, it's best like skipping over that and just going into the next multi-part series, Ninja Quest, which is like, I guess, an alternate tailing of the movie. Like,
exactly, they wasted no time and right into that.
Yeah, the one thing that I could say that Friend in Need did for us is that it finally put one of Bulk and Skull's character development storylines to rest. Like, that's where they decided, you know what? Forget it. We're not going to try and find out who the Power Rangers are anymore. This is too much trouble, dude.
Yeah. That's where we met? That's where we met like Rocky and them, right?
That was the power transfer.
That was a power transfer.
That was in season 2. In season 2, that's where we got Rocky, Adam, and Aisha. Exactly. And then a few months later, the movie released in '95. We got them for the movie.
Oh man, I remember their introduction was that like 15-minute. I know it wasn't. I'm exaggerating, but there was like a 15-minute like carriage chase in the park, and it was the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen in my life. It was so insane. You had the Power Rangers chasing after them. Those two to like Rocky and Ace chasing them, and Bulk and Skull chasing after them on like the craziest skateboards, plus the father. And no one could catch his baby carriage. It was just rocketing through the park.
And yet, when it goes on the grass, when it should slow down, it doesn't stop.
Whenever I watch,
I thought about that. Oh, right.
Even as a kid, when I saw that episode, before I started watching Linkara's History of Power Rangers, I thought that scene was just bizarre, man.
Yeah,
like, a good chunk of the episode, probably a fourth of the episode, is dedicated to this stupid baby stroller scene.
Oh, it was amazing.
Yeah. Suspension,
so back on topic
suspension of disbelief.
So yeah, back on topic of season 3, as I said, much more serialized storytelling. Yep. If you've seen Kaku Ranger, you'll know that they started with like towards the end of Kaku Ranger stock footage and everything. And the reason for this, as you can imagine, is because, you know, Kaku Ranger only ever had 5 members on its team. And since they had so much mech to go around, they decided to give us the Ninja Megazord first. And because, you know, pink, like, there was a little bit of pink in the White Ranger's Zord. So they decided that'll be Kimberly's Zord, and Tommy's is the Falcon. But if you go to Kaku Ranger, you'll find out that, you know, the Shogun Megazord's counterpart, I believe it is the Muteki Shogun, it's called. That's actually the first one, and it's the Ninja Mega Falcon Zord's counterpart that is the more powerful of the everything that they have. You'll also notice, probably, as a kid, I'm sure you were probably questioning, why do the Battleborgs that the Alien Rangers pilot and the Shogun Zords look so freaking similar? Well, there's a good reason for that, and there actually is an explanation for that. Go say. Yeah. The reason for this is because obviously the Cock Ranger suits were the Alien Ranger suits, and the Jusho fighters were lighter armored versions of the Shogun Zords, as we call them. And but yeah, that was like the middle of Cock Ranger, so cool. And it was right before. Like their monster that they fight in Alien Rangers, the last episode, the Hydro Hog, he was like the mid-season boss that they had to fight with the Shogun Zord and stuff like that. And since they said, their Battleborgs aren't enough power to take him out, and when the Falcon Zord comes in, like at the end of the battle to try and even up the odds and stuff like that, that's actually when we first meet Tsubasumaru, aka the Falcon Zord, in Cock Ranger. So he basically was support for them the entire time, and they started using him for that. Then they go on a quest to find for convenience sakes, I'm just gonna call them the Ninja Zords. Then they go on the quest to find their scrolls and stuff like that. They get more mech and stuff like that. So, after, this is interesting. At the end of Ninja Quest, we see Rito destroyed, but it's like he says, he fights and runs away, lives to fight another day. In Cock Ranger, he actually died there, and his death actually gave birth to Master Vile's counterpart in Cock Ranger. And this dude meant business, and because we were coming towards the end, that's why everything felt so much more climactic and stuff like that. Big finale emphasis there, definitely. So season 3 is a little bit of like a mixed bag for me, because they go from doing the end stock footage of Cock Ranger to the beginning to the middle. But I understand why they did that, because it's like they didn't have a brand new team of 5 Rangers to start with, so they had to compensate somehow. Yeah. Now, did it work? Yeah, in a lot of aspects, it did work. Season 3 has some good moments in it. Like, I think the way, even though I was complaining about how many episodes were written about Kimberly, the way they kind of built up her story to eventually leaving the team, I thought that was just perfect. The way they let her depart, I think she had the right amount of build-up and everything. Although I was still salty when Kat replaced her.
I was, simply because I saw it coming in, like, the way I went, Tommy started evil. I don't want to just doing the same thing. Like, that's what I didn't like about it. Like, that was the thing, like, that was like, oh, so we're getting another evil Ranger flipped, and, like, replacing him. I don't know, she wasn't an evil Ranger, but, like, another evil character that was flipped and then became a Ranger. And I didn't like that she was full on Australian. No problem with Australian. I just didn't like. I was like, it just threw me off. I was like, oh, and she's Australian for some reason. I was like, okay, but she was a good Ranger, and they did segue it so much better than they did other characters. I mean, I know they had to compensate for Billy walking off, and they saved their butts pretty all right with it. With jumping back to the, we'll get to that, I guess, but But I much preferred it to stuff like that. It was written pretty well. I just wasn't a huge fan of her character at first, because I was like, this is a storyline I've already seen.
Yeah, but still, I think the way they transferred them over and everything, I think it was handled way better than Jason, Zach, and Trini, for sure.
Yeah.
But again, they fired the actors, and they couldn't even have them on screen for a proper farewell or whatever. So, gotta do what you gotta do. As far as the season goes, Cock Ranger, again, another good season. And again, very mystical based. The mechs themselves aren't robots. They're like deities and stuff like that. If you ever hear like a name for a Megazord in a Sentai season, if it ends with Jin or O, that's usually a Japanese word for God. So it's a celestial being in a way. Cock Ranger, though, can be very similar to Power Rangers at times. And what I mean by that is that it can be very, very campy. Like, If you haven't seen Kaku Ranger, there are these moments where they're battling the evil yokai and stuff like that, and all of a sudden Batman inspired onomatopoeias pop up like zap and shoo 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 when they're throwing shurikens. They ride around in a bus that's inhabited by the spirit of a cat, and there was this fourth wall breaking narrator that would tell us the like recap of what happened last time, or like the backstory of a yokai from ancient times in Japan and stuff like that. Love the shelf, Jay.
Thanks. I was like, I saw it. Why am I doing this down here on my couch when I have this as when I can use this as a background? I missed opportunity. And I apologize.
Ah, not a problem, man.
Hey,
so, Trevor, Brandon, any experiences with Kaku Ranger at all?
My coat real quick. Cold up here.
I've watched some Kaku Ranger. I mostly skipped to like what, because my thing is I mentally couldn't watch it knowing that seeing the Shogun Zords first, and so I skipped to the Ninja Zords and watched it from the beginning after.
I want to judge, but I know I can't because I waited the longest time for Mega Ranger to be fan subbed just so I can get to the Neji Ranger stuff, aka the Psycho Ranger stuff.
I admit I skipped to the Mega Rangers when I first started watching Mega Ranger.
Yeah, I've seen I think most of Kaku Ranger, and from what I've seen, I like it. It's very, as Anthony said, it can be pretty campy at times, and I like it when it does that. It gives me a laugh.
Yeah.
And
has anyone listened to the Kaku Ranger theme and think like the first few opening notes sound very similar to the Hustle? This is the Hustle, and then Kaku Ranger is I'm just saying, it sounds very similar to me.
Yeah,
inspired by.
Well, there's I remember when I saw Stranger Things, the music for Stranger Things, like that first tone they have, right away took me back to there's a lot of like evil transition scenes in the In Space series that was exactly that sound. I was like, that's Power Rangers. Like, there's no way. I was like, they didn't take this straight from Power Rangers. Like, that's exactly what I heard every time. Like, every time dude was talking to Diva Talks, and like, I'm like, I remember that. I'm like, I remember that. Not Diva Talks, Astronomer. But I'm like, like,
but I was probably like, old enough to be in the public domain. That's probably why they did that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, also, I mean, I know it also was
as used public domain music.
Yeah, I also know that Stranger Things, they were trying to place it in that time period, so they, like in like the 80s, so they were grabbing, music specifically that had that kind of sound, but it sounded really exact to me. I was like,
I haven't seen Stranger Things, so I can't like.
Yeah, I only saw the first season. Like, if you just see like the intro music, to it, it's very reminiscent of the evil music they had in Power Rangers in Space.
Oh, that's cool.
So
as camp, I will say this before we transition to Zeo and O Ranger. I will say, while Kaku Ranger can be pretty campy at times, the second half is where it really picks up steam, and that's where it really gets dark. And I think that's where it shines the most. That's me, though. So
yeah.
Yeah. Well, just the fact that Mighty Morphin, like, I mean, I know that they transitioned with Alien, but the fact that Mighty Morphin, after like 170 something episodes, like came to an end with the Rangers all being turned into kids, like, and that was the end of it, kind of blew me away. Like, it was very anticlimactic for me in a sense. It was like, oh, that's it. They beat them. Like, I know with the way the story went, it was amazing. I love, Zeo, but I was very underwhelmed with like, what? Like, that's it? That's the end of Power Rangers.
Heck, even Alien Rangers ended on a bittersweet note. It's like they're back to human. They're back to their teenage selves, but the friggin' command center blows up.
Oh my god! Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine being a kid waiting months for the next season to come out. It's like, how the heck are they going to get through this?
Jay, did you think that the series ended there, or did you know that Zio was coming?
Well, no. I mean, as a kid, I had no idea. You know, like I didn't realize once they changed it to Zio. I was like, as a kid, I was confused. I was like, "This is a different show. This is the same show." You know, I was like, it's the same story. I was like, but the show has a different name, and like, so for me, it almost read like a show got canceled and rebooted. You know, as like like the way a store will close down and then come back with a different name. You know, like, so as a kid, I didn't really understand. I was like, why is it all like this is storyline? Like, why is it not still Mighty Morphin Power Rangers? Like, I didn't. Now as an adult, I obviously get it, you know, but as a kid, I didn't really understand what was happening, you know. So they came back, I just went, I don't like these suits. Yeah.
I always felt like for Alien Rangers, they did that so kids will be able to adjust to the idea of new costumes.
I love the Alien Ranger cut. Like they said that they're using the direct suits from the other series. I loved those suits.
Yeah, honestly, when you compare all Ninja series suits and stuff like that, for me, Cock Ranger suits, hands down. Like, it's better than Ninja suits. It's better than Ninja Storms.
Yep.
Like, just, if you give me a Ninja Ranger, like, tell me what it should look like,
that's what it's
Cock Ranger is what I tell you. Make it look like that, and we're set.
Especially, is so cool given the aliens themselves looked absolutely ridiculous. that one face prosthetic they put on all four, like.
And then that whole neck thing, having to talk and stuff like that had to be uncomfortable for the Rangers.
And I was like, you guys, like, I'm like, for how all out you go on the monsters, I feel like you really craft the bed with these alien Rangers.
I feel like their makeup could have been so much better.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, at least they're better than the Dark Rangers we got in MMPR Season 2. I'm just saying.
They need to get motorcycle helmets for them.
All right, so I think that transitions pretty well into Zio.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to the Zordon Era, as much as I love In Space, before I saw In Space, Zio was my favorite Zordon Era season.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just because, and obviously before I knew about Sentai, I really like the O-Ranger Zio suits with the stars on their heads.
I really love the freaking mech that they have in O-Ranger.
O-Ranger is probably my second favorite Sentai.
I mean, O-Ranger is one of the only Sentais I haven't seen from that era. And I know it's, I don't know much about it, really. I know.
Don't worry, I'm here to help with that.
Yes, I figured you were.
Which, Anthony, you brought over. Me and you both know why they had to make Car Ranger more comedic.
Yes, I am aware of those facts. So, before we get into O-Ranger and why it's a little bit of a mess of a series, like, I guess it's not a mess, it's more of an unbalanced series. But we'll get to that in a moment. So, as far as Zio goes, as you guys probably could have figured out by now, I think they were just tired of not using as much Sentai footage as they could, because the more Sentai footage they could use, the more toys they could sell, and the less shots that they have to make. Because Spawn, let's be honest, he's cheap. It'd be much faster to shoot as few American shots as possible and use the rest of the time of the episode with Sentai footage as much as you can. So,
I mean, it's also smart. You know, it's also smart. You know, if you're trying to cut into your time management, you have a huge production crew, and you're like, the budget to try and film all this stuff, we're allowed to use this footage. I just take as much as we can.
Oh, no, he's a smart businessman. I'm not going to take that away from him. Like, being cheap actually works out in his favor.
It's like if we go to another country and we want to make our own superhero show, but instead of filming our own stuff, we just take footage from Spider-Man.
Now, what we alluded to before about the command center being destroyed and everything,
Yeah.
that was the one thing that I remember seeing of like the recap in the beginning of Zeo, and I'm just like, holy shit, the command center is done for. What are they gonna do now? And all of a sudden they find this passage underground, and it's like, what the hell is this?
And the command center started putting itself back together. Why? Because Power Rangers. But I think, you know what? The one thing I think season 3 did really, really, really well. This was a brilliant stroke from the writers. They actually established the Zeo Crystal in that season to set up for the next one. Like, most of the time, let's be honest, in season 1 through 3 of Mighty Morphin, most of the time when we'd get news about some mystical object or some far-off place, it'd be like a one-off thing or a 2-episode thing. But here, they actually set it up, and
the entirety of Alien Rangers are searching for those crystals. The entirety of the Alien season.
Yeah. And that was smart,
because
really that helped them, get a new power source and stuff like that. Yeah, that was, I think, the best thing you could do for season 3 is setting up the new season really early in advance.
Although I know it's jumping back a second, but I feel like it was a missed up. Can we mention real fact that in one episode they flopped Aisha and Tanya in the Alien Rangers. They took or in the Zeo they took Aisha and they put her as a kid when she was a kid on the other planet. And then
not the other planet. No, she's in Africa.
Yeah, she's in Africa. Then they just switch her with Tanya. She's like, "I'm staying here, and you're gonna go there," and everyone just is okay with it. They're like, "He just switched kids," and everyone's like, "Yeah, there's no problem."
Let's not worry about the ripple effect or the butterfly effect. Everything will be fine.
But no adult, like all these adults weren't looking at these kids going like, you can't just switch places, kids. Like you can't just do that. They were like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. Which I know it did for the storyline, but like thinking about it, I'm like, they just swapped these kids, and it was like where they met them and slowly became like it was like here they are, and then they switched.
Yeah, I'll admit that was another poor switch up, like another transfer of power and stuff like that, passing of the torch. But again, backstage problems and everything. Yeah. I can't remember if Karen Ashley was fired or they just she just decided to walk off or whatever. So
I never heard anything about her being fired, so it must have been she wanted to do something else with her career.
Yeah, you blame her.
Tanya better, but yeah, I thought about it. I was like, oh right, I was like, that is a great transition compared to like that whole season with them searching for the crystals. I was like, but that's what happened too. They just switched these two kids. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I also like how Billy says, oh, Tanya, I'm giving my crystal to you. Personally, I just didn't think he'd want to be caught in an outfit with a skirt. But yeah, so Zeo. I thought Zeo started off really strong. There were a bit of silly episodes in the beginning, but once you get to the Gold Ranger stuff, that's when Zeo really kicked off.
My favorite Ranger. It was my favorite Ranger. It was my favorite. So I said the toss-up between whether or not In Space and Zeo are my favorite. I don't know which one. Because like he said, I didn't know In Space was coming when I saw Zeo. And Zeo is responsible for my favorite Rangers, my favorite storyline. I think In Space, just because it was the end, is why I think it was just so good, because it was so overwhelming. But
Gold Ranger, when you really think about it, he kind of set this bar for what most Six Rangers would become like. He comes out of nowhere. We have no idea about him. We know he's a good guy, but he's a little hesitant to join the team, and he's super, super powerful.
So powerful that
Tommy started it, but Trey perfected.
So powerful that Trey has to be 3 different guys in order to control it, and so powerful that the moment Jason takes on that power, he unknowingly is dying from that point on because it's too powerful for him, and it's just killing it from that point on.
It's not his fault. Trey has had years of experience.
From his planet, he's 3 different guys. I'm like, and you're giving it to this one dude, and it immediately started killing him. what a great story. Like, because you're like, it makes sense. Like the fact that it just really made sense. Like,
yeah, and he has a pyramid for Zord.
Oh yeah, pure minus and everything that he could do with the freaking rolling the warrior wheel and like, oh, it was so cool. He had so much.
Jeremiah's one of the coolest characters.
Yeah, he had so much. It was the coolest Ranger.
Yeah, and I think it was very clever how they had multiple choices of who it could be. It wasn't just like, in White Ranger where we really thought for a second it was supposed to be Richie.
We're talking about everybody.
Thank God it wasn't.
This is the Ranger we're talking about.
I don't think I have that one yet.
Yeah, I have the tray. I don't have the Jason crossover with the
That was like a Comic-Con exclusive.
Yeah, I saw it at a Comic-Con, couldn't afford it at the time, was pissed. But I did grab this tomorrow night. But yeah, this is the Ranger we're talking about.
Cool. Now, I gotta establish this. I gotta bring this up. Address the elephant in the room. Did you guys ever think it was weird that he was called the Gold Ranger? I mean, he's primarily black.
I mean, the trim, I guess there was already a Black Ranger,
Listen, if you're gonna promote a 6th Ranger, I get it. Gold Ranger sounds way more marketable. So, and we hadn't had a Gold Ranger to that point, so I get why they did it. But I personally think, his suit, when you really take away the shield, it's mostly black underneath there. His helmet is primarily black. He's just got gold accents.
Yeah, I think it's because of the power,
shield.
Because if you think everyone already associates Black Ranger with one of the original 5. So if you have a Ranger coming back as a Black Ranger, it doesn't sound so exciting or so powerful compared to Gold. And this
I mentioned, it's more marketable. I get why they did it, but I still think he's oddly named. Out of the red herrings that we had of who the Gold Ranger could be before they said out of nowhere, oh, he's an alien prince. Yeah. Okay, I mean, I could only imagine fans like yourself, Jay, when they were originally watching this on Fox Kids, you had to be thinking primarily it had to be either Billy or Tommy's brother. Or at the very least, when they said they need to find a replacement Ranger, you had to think, they got to go to Tommy's brother since, he knows who the Rangers are, he's a good fighter, or Billy because he's been a Ranger in the past.
It disappointed me for Billy that it wasn't Billy. When they, because they kept hinting at it and all this stuff, and he just so happened to be gone all these times, Gold Ranger wasn't around. And then you finally got one storyline where they were, where they were talking to Billy during a thing. You're like, oh, that confirms it. It clearly can't be Billy.
Something I've always thought of, because Billy's always gone. My theory is that he's always working on the turbo powers during that time.
Yeah, a lot of fans have brought up that theory that he could have been working on the Turbo Zords all that time. So,
yeah. Now, as I said, Anthony, I don't know that much about O Ranger. I know it. I don't know. I know it's.
I gotta grab my charger real quick for the laptop. It's dying on me.
What is it? Choriki Sentai?
Choriki Sentai O Ranger.
Yeah.
So here's the thing about O-Ranger. Now we get to the interesting stuff. O-Ranger was supposed to be a 20th anniversary celebration of the Sentai. It was supposed to be a little bit more dark, serious, and stuff like that. They got old writers from the 80s, even the 70s, I think, from older Sentai series to help write episodes of this show. And the whole, the main plot of what O-Ranger was supposed to be like, the story they had in mind was just awesome. It was supposed to be about a soon-to-be apocalyptic future. Like, the series was shot in 1995 and aired in 95, but the story at first it takes place in 1999, and it begins with the invasion of the Baranoia Empire, and how they were basically saying, we're machines, we're superior to you humans, this and that, and they started attacking all sorts of different parts of the world, and all seems lost until they come into possession of this ancient technology called Choriki. And the captain, Goro, his name is, who becomes O-Red, recruits four members. Well, actually, no, he finds them, and they had been chosen for this O-Ranger project and stuff like that. And he trains them, this and that. It was very dark in the beginning. However, after like less than three,
someone decided to bomb Japan.
3 weeks after, like less than 3 weeks after the show aired, there were these subway, Tokyo subway attacks, gas attacks, I believe they were, which caused panic and death not even approached since World War II. I believe it was committed by a guy who was supposedly he claimed to be a descendant of this ancient tribe, which happened to be the same ancient tribe they talk about in O-Ranger.
Oh, wow.
So after like 8 episodes of O-Ranger, you'll start noticing when you watch that show, all of a sudden there are these weird character traits our Rangers start taking on, and it becomes a little bit more silly, this and that. Especially in the middle of O-Ranger, that's when like the goofy villains started coming into play and stuff. For the most part, O-Ranger is very serious, but then there are those times where O-Ranger, because it had to have several rewrites, because it didn't want to hit too close to home for the viewers and stuff like that, they ended up changing a lot of things. So because of bad timing, O-Ranger kind of became almost not poor execution, just right place, wrong time. That's what I like to think of it as. It still is a great show. I think the way it ends definitely makes up for almost everything. But that's O-Ranger for you.
I always had a conspiracy theory that somehow the writers of O-Ranger knew about the upcoming gas attack, and that's why they had That's why the guy who claims to be part of the ancient tribe that's mentioned in O-Ranger.
I don't know about that. Like, I don't think it was like that he was saying he was the exact same tribe. I think the tribe they mentioned in O-Ranger is like it takes inspiration from an actual tribe that existed thousands of years ago and stuff like that. But I think it's a different name. I could be wrong on that. I have to do my homework again because it's been a long time since I've researched O-Ranger like that. But it is an interesting story to find out because of real-world events, they had to change a whole show around here and there to add a little levity for the viewers at home in Japan.
Just like Time Force.
Yeah. Like all of a sudden in Time Force, all of those shots of Time Shadow on top of a building, it suddenly changed to the Q-Rex in the middle of a field, a mountain field, and stuff like that. Yep. Real world events can change things drastically. But because of that is what led Car Ranger, the 20th century Sentai series, to be purposefully comedic and silly, just balls to the walls, goofy, fun, and stuff like that. And from what people say, Car Ranger actually saved Super Sentai and started to get the ratings back up. It started low. Believe it or not, but it started to raise a bit after that. What was that, Brandon?
All Turbo nearly killed Power Rangers.
Yes, it did. So Turbo starts out with a movie, as we know.
Yeah.
And
first off, that is not fair to the kids and the viewers. Like, I'm saying, if you don't go to because it came out in theaters at the time, mind you, I went and saw it in theaters, but I shouldn't have had to go to the theaters to find out the storyline between what happens from this season to the next season. Like, because the first episode, they give you like a montage of the movie and like cut scenes of like, hey, this is what happened, by the way.
Hi, I'm the new Blue Ranger.
This is everything you missed on our adventure, Rocky, while your back was hurt.
It wasn't fair. It wasn't fair. Not everyone could go to the movies. Like, thankfully, all, me and all 4 of my siblings loved Power Rangers, so there's no way my mom wasn't taking us. But
that was fair. What do you guys think of the movie as a whole?
I've only seen it once, and I didn't like it.
I never liked it because there's not enough scenes of them morphed.
It just seemed like a long episode. It didn't seem like it had the budget or the passion that the first movie had. Now, mind you, the CGI in the first movie was horrible at the end. But they still, you could tell the budget. They had a bigger budget. They were going for it. They thought CGI was a good idea. The Power Rangers Turbo movie it seemed like it just felt like a long episode.
Like it was a movie.
Like the budget and used it to travel.
Episode.
Yeah, say what you want about the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie. While the movie, to a lot of people, isn't very good, it's not very bad either. All it's trying to be is Power Rangers on a bigger budget. That's why the suits look different. That's why they decided, instead of stock footage, guys in rubber suits, to use the CGI and stuff like that. I love that movie to death.
Yeah.
Like, I could quote it nearly word for word, pretty much.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it.
As far as the Turbo movie goes, like Jay said, I think Jay put it perfectly. It does feel like a long episode. Now, that being said, do I like the movie? Yeah, I like it enough. Like, there's a lot of scenes in there that my brother and I sometimes will quote on and off and stuff like that. And I think the music, for one thing, definitely is probably my favorite part of the movie.
It also, given how old my brothers and I were at the time, it was the best version of Divatox we ever got to see. It's the movies where they had her costume really pushed up on her, and then
now, to be fair, there are two actresses who have played Divatox,
I know,
and that was Hillary Shepard Turner, and then they brought her back after her pregnancy for the second half of Turbo.
Which, thank Christ, because I hated Diane. I hated her. To go from Hillary, what was her name? Diane, right? Diane Hoyt or something like that?
No, it was Hillary Shepard Turner to Carol Hoyt.
Carol Hoyt, that's what it was, Carol Hoyt. I hated
Carol. I wasn't a fan of her either. My brother... So, a few years ago, back when my brother and I, thanks to our Power Rangers Legacy collection on DVD, we decided we wanted to start watching from beginning to end every season. And around 2017, we were watching Turbo. And when we started watching Turbo, my brother's like, hey, what happened to Divatox's big boobs? And it's like, I got a story to tell you. So I told him and everything. It's like, that's why she's not as stacked.
But I didn't really care that she wasn't as stacked. I just was thrilled when she came back. When she finally came back after pregnancy, I was overjoyed. I knew right away, because I don't remember what episode it was, but it started with her just talking, and she was looking through a telescope, and I heard the voice right away and went, she's back. That's Carol. That's not Carol. She's back. And I love her. She's my favorite. Like, the way she moves her mouth as a villain, the way she just plays that compared to Carol's like B-list performance in comparison, I don't like it.
I'll admit, as a villain, I don't like Divatox at all.
I love her. She's hilarious.
But as far as who plays her better, Hillary Shepard Turner every day of the week.
Here's my thing with Turbo. For the longest time, I didn't know that Turbo was considered one of the worst seasons.
Neither did I.
I didn't know that it almost killed the franchise. So I thought Turbo, for the longest time, I thought Turbo was pretty good, and to this day, I kind of like Turbo. I really like the suits coming over from Car Ranger. And the Megazord, while it's not my favorite Megazord by any stretch, it's I feel like it was a nice sort of evolution.
I don't know about that one. I mean, I will give you that I do like the mechs. I do like the Zords in Turbo. I do like their suits. However, as far as transitioning goes, we go from dinosaurs to ancient animals, to ninja powers, to a magic crystal, and now we go to cars.
If you hate Justin, you'll hate the season.
Well, that was actually, as a kid, that was one of the things that we liked about this season, because, that's why they did it. They're trying to these teenagers, but we're appealing to kids, so we threw this kid in here, who grew,
That's an interesting story, why they put Justin in there, if you guys want to hear it.
Because I figured it was just to appeal to the, younger, to the kids who were like, well, they're teenagers and we're children. It wouldn't be cool if we were a Power Ranger.
So here's the thing about Justin, why he was added in. A Kid Ranger amongst teenagers and stuff. So at the time of when Zeo first aired, believe it or not, after its first three-parter, ratings started to decline for Power Rangers. And in favor of Power Rangers declining, Big Bad Beetleborgs, which was also on Fox Kids, all of a sudden had better ratings than Power Rangers. So the writers thought, oh well, the Beetleborgs, they're kids as superheroes, so we'll, for the next Power Ranger season, we'll have a kid as a ranger. It ended up backfiring because a lot of older fans thought he was annoying and younger audiences couldn't connect with him. So
my thing is, maybe deep down we think we hate Justin, but we think we hate Justin, but deep down we were jealous of him.
See, that's my thing. I will openly admit I never hated Justin. I liked him. Honestly, he's the smartest character out of his team. You know, whenever something starts going down, people start disappearing or whatever, and he instantly knows, Divatox, she's behind this. But for me, I even openly said this to Blake Foster, who played Justin himself, that, listen, dude, I never hated you. I know a lot of people hated you. I never hated you, but I was always jealous of you. I think it's ironic that now the smallest member of the team is like the tallest and most jacked of the team. Like the dude is like 6'2" or 6'3" in real life. And I always thought, so now if he were to morph, does that mean he would shrink to normal?
Yeah, I was a fan of Justin's character. We were pissed about the car thing. That was what it was. That's what bothered us about the season, is that we're like, it went from exactly that progression to now vehicles. We're like, what the hell? Like, these Transformers now. I don't like that. So like,
Transformers. That's the rescue Zords. The Turbo Zords don't do that. The rescue Zords are definitely Transformers.
But I still really liked the helmets and the aesthetic, though, because as much as I loved Zeo, I just couldn't stand and I understood it with the way the helmets were Zeo 1 through 5, and it was the circle, the 2 dashes, and then from that point on, points of the of the shape, the triangle, the square, and the star.
Yeah,
but I hated the fact that it was a star in his face. I just hated the fact that it was a star in his face. Like, I just couldn't get over. That was the one thing about Zeo that I couldn't stand.
JDF himself says he hated the star on his helmet.
Like, it was a star in the face, like, and that's all it was. Star.
I always loved it, but now I can see why people would hate it.
But yeah, like, I understand for it being Zeo 5, and then especially given Gold Ranger got the coolest helmet with the 6, like. But so I just feel like I got kind of screwed in that. But so with the exception of the cars, everything else we really loved. We appreciated the helmets going back to something cool looking, like really cool, unified, and then and we liked Justin, like he was, again, like you said, he was constantly, smart, because the Rangers just got, which is one of my issues with the Power Rangers in general progressing, is the people who became the Power Rangers were not nearly as smart or as good, more like people when it came to their morale in general, as other Rangers. Like, if you think about, there's multiple episodes where the Rangers have to be helped out and taught a lesson by an older Ranger, who like knows better, and that's constantly happening, like, as it continues through the seasons.
That's mostly Neo Saban you're talking about. But let's be fair.
Yeah. Well, so I don't know, much of the, but like, I remember, my only issue within Space was the fact that I was like, I hate this Ranger team. I was like, I can't stand it.
You hated in Space? Rangers team? What?
I didn't like, I thought Carlos was an absolute moron. Like,
wrong.
The episode where he accidentally hit Cassie and
always a chance. One of my favorite episodes, actually.
And he flipped out about it. Like, just that episode, that entire episode to me proves that point that I'm going for, because he accidentally hits Cassie and freaks out enough to where he quits the Rangers. He's like, I'm done. I'm not doing this anymore. Like, I'm not, I can't do it. And then Adam has to come back and help. And Adam just right away shows off that he is the most athletic of like all the Rangers ever. Like, he really, when he jumps in, the scene where he jumps in to save Carlos from, he's being stepped on, he jumps in and they give you one shot where he kicks the guy 3 times before jumping off of him and landing. And later on in the episode, Carlos then saves him, and he jumps in and literally jumps hands out onto the guy's back. And because that's the difference in Rangers. I'm like, if you watch everything with Adam, the actor who played him, is doing tornado kicks and spin kicks in every single scene. He's so athletic. He's so cool, and Carlos Lee jumped on the dude's back because he's not even close to up, to the caliber of person that the Rangers were before. If you look
to
at,
be fair, some of those characters that they would end up replacing our previous Ranger teams, some of them weren't, established martial artists. Some of them, like Kimberly, even was like a gymnast, or Ashley was a dancer, and Carlos was a soccer player. So
but they
gotta compensate somehow.
They still had the fact that he had to explain to him, like, dude, like, it's like you're a Ranger, it's taking a risk. Like, no, like the fact that Carlos freaked out like that to where he quit the Rangers, I was like, what kind of moron? I'm like, none of the Mighty Morphin Rangers would ever react like this. I'm like, all the people that they are would understand right away, be like, sorry, I'm so sorry. And they'd be like, no, we get it, you're good. And you'd be like, oh, they worry, but they wouldn't freak out, not know whether or not they're doing a good thing or a bad thing, quit the Rangers. Like, none of this, they wouldn't do that. And it blows me away because I'm like, how are you, these people were handpicked by Zordon, and then they just kind of start transitioning, going, oh, well, let's give it to the next best guy because you guys have to leave. And for me, how good they were, if I look at how jacked Jason was, as this Ranger, and then you see any picture of Andros in a tank top, you're like, this guy's this big, and he's the leader of the Power Rangers. I know he's from space and different, a different whole everything than the people we met on Earth. But I compare, like, this is the leader of the Power Rangers compared to Jason. That was this rock of a man.
You're sounding like Vince McMahon.
I personally liked that episode because it made Carlos seem more human. And
Yes, we'll get back to more in-space stuff. For now, let's talk about Turbo.
Yeah,
so as far as good highlights for Turbo, suits, music, Megazords, Phantom Ranger, and Blue Centaurian, all awesome.
I love Blue Centaurian and Phantom Ranger.
He was awesome.
As far as what was bad about Turbo, the biggest thing was that the writers didn't know what to do with it. There was half of the cast that wanted to, they were graduating from high school, so they thought, now they're adults, they should be experiencing real world life events and stuff like that. It should be a little bit more of a darker story. The other half wanted to embrace the slapstick, and because of that, the show ended up being a cluster of both things, and it didn't gel up well. When they're trying to tell a serious story in one moment, then they have the silly stock footage of, like, when Tommy's in his Zord, he pulls out the manual to his car to learn how to operate it and stuff like that. So it's like, it doesn't really gel well,
Yeah.
But with all bad things, with every yin, there is a yang. So you probably remember the episode where Blue Centaurian comes in, the Millennium Message. So it's talking about how in the year 2000, because 2000 sounds a lot more ominous than 1998, that's when the world was basically going to end. That should have been the year to end Power Rangers, but because ratings were so bad, it only would have lasted enough for one last season, which was supposed to be in space. But ratings were declining for the Rangers, and they finally got a two-parter established to send off our heroes, minus Justin, to college and get us a new Ranger team. That new Ranger team actually helped increase ratings, but again, only for one more season. Now, as far as the new Ranger team goes, TJ, I have no problem with TJ. When we first meet him, he was definitely someone who I thought of as a hero. Like, this is definitely a great candidate. And he was a great Red Ranger. I feel bad that he got demoted to blue in space. Cassie, as far as Cassie goes, man, she can't sing for shit. She can be very annoying. She does get better in space, though. I must say, in space fixed a lot of things wrong with freaking Turbo. Carlos,
I love the cars when they brought the cars into Turbo. For some reason, I loved that. The when they met the what are their names? The red car and the blue car.
Light Cruiser and Storm Blaster.
Exactly. I love them, especially because, like, later on, Storm Blaster ends up helping, and the fact that Divatox ended up getting her flying car because she was jealous, and, like, that whole because I love the cars. Like, I felt they added so much more to what they were doing with the season. I really liked it.
That's a good aspect of Turbo. I think they were definitely enjoyable characters,
Yeah.
I must say.
You know, because they were really, you know, the cars with the personality. You know,
Yeah.
But
yeah, and so the new Ranger team. So let's move on to Ashley. Ashley, as far as she goes, yeah, I'll admit openly, I had the biggest crush on her. Still do. Like, Tracy Lynn Cruz is still such a fine woman. As far as her character goes,
yeah,
not really much to Ashley.
exactly.
I hate to admit it.
Like,
I love you, Tracy Lynn Cruz, but Ashley, there's not much to her. She's just
nope.
nice, and she's a
Yeah.
dancer. That's really all there is. But to be fair, you could say a lot of the same things about Rocky, Adam, and Aisha. They were just average characters. They didn't have like established traits and stuff like that. It's not their fault. It was just, you know, they had to recast some people because people were just burnt out and they didn't want to be on the show anymore. And now we get to Carlos. Yeah. Roger Velasco, I've told him this in person. I thought your acting definitely improved in Space because a lot of scenes with Cassie and Carlos, man, those scenes were just wow. This is MMPR levels of bad acting. And when we first meet Carlos, you know, he was basically someone who said screw teamwork to win a soccer game. So Carlos was a bit of a mixed bag.
I'm like, how are people replacing these people?
Now, Turbo, the way Turbo ends, Countdown to Space, I believe it was called?
Yes.
Or Chase into Space?
Chase into Space. Chase into Space, I think.
There we go.
Yeah.
Countdown to Destruction is the name of the two-part finale for In Space. Sorry, I was mixing the two up.
Yeah.
Chase into Space.
Loved it. I loved it so much.
That two-parter is so great.
Yeah.
But the only thing about it is because of what makes it so great. It's because it's so much of a downer when you really think about it. I mean, both Megazords get blown up. Divatox, of all villains, is the one invading the power chamber. Elgar, who I freaking hate, is leading the charge and, you know, destroying everything we've come to know and love over the last few seasons and stuff like that. And the Rangers, to top it all off, they lose their powers because Zordon on Eltar, he loses the battle with Dark Spectre. But again, it was such a great finale for a mixed bag of a season.
I loved it. When they end on a dark note like that, I'm like, it's just, to me, it's mind-boggling because I go, it's not how it's supposed to end. It's a kid's show, you know, and I love it. I love when they do that. I'm like, what's happening? Like, I loved those two episodes. I felt they came out of nowhere and really saved a lot of, like, because it wasn't built up like the way they transitioned into Zeo. You know, this was just like a quick, like,
So we've talked a lot about Turbo. Anyone else besides me seen Car Ranger? No?
Yeah, I've seen part of it.
What was it?
We're talking about who has seen Car Ranger to make a proper comparison to its.
No, I've not seen Car Ranger.
The interesting thing about Car Ranger is in Turbo, Elgar's comedic, but in Car Ranger, he's more menacing.
Yeah, and Rygog is actually the main villain in charge of Car Ranger.
That makes more sense. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. And so they all so Car Ranger is basically about how there's this one surviving alien of a species called Dapu. He comes from this basically, I'm just going to call it a car planet to make it easy to understand. And he has access to what's called Kuru magic or car magic. And he finds 5 auto garage workers to infuse them with the power. And at first, they were like, hell no, man, this ain't for us. And he actually has to drag them by like a rope and stuff like that. It's like pulls them out to the action and stuff like that. It's like, okay, do your thing. Oh, and he, believe it or not, he gets shot down and he pretends to die. And but they don't know he's pretending. No, they transform and they save the day. And then he's walking up and it's like, wait, you're alive? Oh yeah, I was just joking, just to get you to be serious. Car Ranger is very funny. It's a lot of fun. it does have, somewhat serious moments because it's not like a total parody of the Sentai formula. But if you're looking for a good time, Car Ranger's a good show, I like to say.
That's fun.
So now we get to the end of the Zordon era. Oh boy, In Space. In Space and Mega Range. Really, really like In Space. I will admit that I'm very biased towards In Space.
One of the best
when it
seasons.
comes to the Zordon era, as I said, Zeo and In Space are my favorites, and
Yeah.
one of the reasons
Yeah.
why I like In Space so much is Andros. Next
That's what I
to
was gonna
next to
say.
Carter and Lightspeed, Andros is one of my favorite Reds. He's a good leader.
Yeah, hard to argue with that. I mean, when we first meet the guy, he's, of course, because he's not from Earth, he doesn't know these guys, and he thinks, what do you know about space? And as we find out later on, a quarter of the way into the season, we find out he actually did used to have a partner, but he got killed off. Now, here's the thing about In Space that I always like to think of. Ever since my friend Joe pointed this out to me, is that it's never been like officially addressed in Space, but so we know that Zane and Andros were a team. How
Yep.
come he has all those extra morphers lying?
Exactly. What happened to the rest of his team? I was gonna say that.
Exactly.
What happened to his
Which
team?
is why I always like to assume it's
Never addressed
headcanon to me that his team, he had a team of 6 Rangers at some point, but the other 4 must have just died off,
Yep.
and Zane was the last one that he had.
Exactly. And he was like the only one who was able to save from like a situation like where he's like, oh, I lost all the other ones. There's no way I'm losing you too, and you sacrificed yourself to save me. So he put him in the cryo tube. Like, but I love Andros so much because he is going like from the moment you meet him. You don't find out till later on, but from the moment you meet him, he is obviously the Rangers are going through a lot. With their they just ran into space, but they don't understand what they just did to and this guy or what he's going through. Because not only has the guy been searching the universe for his sister, who is kidnapped and or feared dead, he doesn't know. He's searching he also has his best friend in like a cryo coma for 2 years and doesn't know if he's alive or not. He's traveling like this ship by himself, and then he comes back to 5 or 4 random people on his ship. And I'm like, this poor man, like this poor man is going through so much. And
it's like they all want to save Zordon, but Andros is just understandably hesitant to trust anybody. And because like he doesn't want to lose another team. So, but In Space, this is basically what Turbo was supposed to be. A darker celebration, more serious and stuff like that. There are very, very, very few silly moments in Space, and we love it for it.
Yeah.
And because now here's the thing. If you haven't seen Mega Ranger, you'll know that while it does have some space elements to it, it's actually more of a video game virtual reality based sort of show.
That's what I really liked about Mega Ranger. Being a huge gamer and everything, I'm just like, holy shit! These guys are all high school students going through virtual reality to be saviors of the planet. It's like, holy shit.
Yeah. So Jay, I'm willing to bet that you haven't seen Mega Ranger. Yes.
Nope.
But stop me if you've heard this before. So there's this kid who is a well-established master of a game. Scouts come by to him and tell him, what if I told you everything in this game that you figured out is exactly, it's a lot like The Last Starfighter or Aaron Stone. Yes! Mega Ranger, believe it or not, is a video game in the arcades in the show, and they basically use it as a way to find out who's a best candidate for Mega Rangers. So Kenta, Mega Red, is like chosen for this project, and he runs into 4 of his high school seniors. They're all high school seniors, but the 4 of them, the other 4, they're all like well-established honor roll students and stuff like that. They have this digital club that they run and stuff like that. They wanted to get a tour of like this believe it or not, the place is called Nasada, so that's where Turbo got the name from.
Nice.
And they're like, oh, sorry, we got to cancel the tour for now, guys. So they take it upon themselves, being teenagers that they are, to investigate and get a tour of their themselves. So they get caught in the action, and the doctor basically says, with no other choice, all right, here, these are your transformation devices. The code is 335, and you'll turn into Mega Rangers. So Kenta, knows what it's all about, but these guys don't. They're not like the gamers.
Right,
Kenta's a slacker. Believe it or not, Kenta is like the least smart of the group. Everyone else, like believe it or not, Koichiro, who's Mega Black, he's actually more of the leader type. And he even in other episodes as they go on, he tries to establish a training regimen for everybody, which is why it was so weird in Space when you would see like Carlos kind of taking command or like taking an initiative when you were watching stock footage. It's because of that reason, because Koichiro was kind of a take charge kind of guy. When you were probably been thinking, shouldn't it be TJ doing that towards Jason? I mean, towards Andros?
Andros, yeah. Yeah.
So, in Space, definitely had a lot going for it, but because they realized that they messed up and it's not a Space Sentai, they realized, screw it, it's the last season, we're going to pull out all the stops, and we're going to have as much American footage as we can. They don't have scenes of them flying in space. We'll make our own. It looks terrible, but screw it.
Yeah.
The effects, a lot of the effects in Space, I'm sure you guys can establish this with me, are terrible by modern standards. But, that's not what we love about it. What we love about it is there's the characters are way more serious. The story is great. How it's basically all just trying to get their old mentor back. And they're going to different planets and stuff like that. We're seeing, this is, I think, the first Power Rangers series where the line between good and evil is definitely very blurred because of characters like Astronema, Eclipse, or, is there anyone else? Nah, Dark Honda's a straight-up villain, same with Darkseid. But,
Ecliptor is kind of in the gray area.
Yeah, that's what he said.
He was a bad guy, but he had sort of a code of honor to him. He was always a Black Knight or Dark Knight sort of character, and that's why I really loved Ecliptor as a kid.
Yeah, especially his aesthetic. The combination of Ecliptor and Dark Condor. Dark Condor's costume is just gorgeous. Is absolutely gorgeous. It's horrifying. It's put together so well. Like, it's just a very amazing, like, I really, even though the episode is ridiculous, I believe it is right at the beginning of the series, they did the Shell Shocked episodes where they meet the Ninja Turtles.
Yes, Shell Shocked, one of the most infamous episodes.
Yeah.
And my friend Joey actually decided one day years ago to start binge watching all the seasons, thanks to Netflix, which we won't be able to do that for much longer. Nope. But he asked me, hey, what's with the Ninja Turtles crossover? And I'm like, yeah, sit down. I got a story to tell you.
Yeah.
I basically just told him, Ninja Turtles The Next Mutation was a show on Fox Kids, and since Power Rangers in Space was starting and Ninja Turtles The Next Mutation was ending, and both were owned by Saban, they just decided, screw it, let's have these two teams cross over. No real rhyme or reason for it, just because.
I have to say because I was a fan of the original Ninja Turtle movies, and then the new ones, are all CGI. These version of the Turtles are hands down my favorite aesthetic because it is the old costumes revamped with such incredible detail. Like, if you look at the Ninja Turtle costumes in this particular episode, because I didn't watch they're so, like, the detail in their arms and their, like, it is absolutely gorgeous. The people who made these Ninja Turtle costumes, it is hands down so much better than the original movies. And just to me, the ultimate Ninja Turtle costume are those costumes. They are stunning. They're absolutely stunning.
I respectfully half disagree. As far as the live action turtle suits go, okay, Turtles 1 and 2, awesome suits. They were made by the Jim Henson Company, and it shows. Like, those were the best friggin' suits ever. 3 comes out. It's garbage. The movie is garbage. The suits are garbage. The turtles' mouths moves like they're puppets and stuff like that. Ninja Turtles: The Next Mutation, for the most part, I do like the costumes.
Yeah,
they're all buffed out
there's
because
more
they're no
feet on
longer
their arms than in
just
my
the title
arm.
of the show. It's not Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: The Next Mutation. It's Ninja Turtles: The Next Mutation. Because they're about 18 years old, so that's when you start becoming an adult. The one thing I think, actually no, two things. The two things I don't like about the Ninja Turtles Next Mutation costumes is that they're more of like do rags hanging out, hanging down,
Two or
and
three of them have
instead of
the whole
straight up
top.
mask.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2 or 3 of them have the top, and then actually I think 2 of them are fully covered, and then and then Leah or Raph and Michelangelo both have this, like just the eyes, but Raph's ripped on the top.
Yeah, it was Leonardo and Donatello who
Yeah,
had
full
like their
do-rag,
whole mask covering their heads up, which was weird. Plus, need we forget about the elephant in the room that is Venus de Milo?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how many episodes ago, but I remember Brandon mentioned the Turtles episode of In Space and mentioned Venus, not by name, but the female turtle. I'm just like, there was a female turtle? I had no idea, because I've never seen Next Mutation.
That's still on Netflix if you want to check it out someday. I will give you a disclaimer. It is very, very, very silly. Like, we're talking Three Stooges, Looney Tunes territory of silly. And it only lasted one season. It's fine and everything if you like the Turtles, and if you really just want a good laugh, go ahead and put it on. Don't expect much, though.
I'm a huge Ninja Turtles fan, equal to Power Rangers in terms of how much I'm into it. But Next Mutation, it's not the best Turtle series because the tone felt really off.
I mean, I don't want to spend too much time on this because this is a Power Rangers podcast, not a TMNT podcast. But I will say this: I have never. I mean, I don't want to say I'm not a fan of TMNT. I like TMNT, but I've never really seen much of it. Like, I've never seen the original animated series. I've never seen a lot of the other animated series. I've never seen Next Mutation. The only real Turtles thing I've actually seen, ironically enough, is the In Space crossover.
Oh,
that is bizarre!
That's
wow.
Crazy,
I have played a TMNT video game on the Wii that was a Smash Bros. Ripoff.
Oh, yeah, and it has Smash in the titles. It's Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Smash Up. Yeah.
I've played that. I owned that. And because I bought that before Smash Brothers Brawl came out. And I'm just like, oh, well, there's no Smash Brothers for Wii. Here's a Smash Brothers for Wii. But back to In Space. I really when it comes to my Turtles experience, I like that episode just because it's so crazy. It's like, wait a minute, Power Rangers, Ninja Turtles.
I like that Astronema just immediately goes off to New York.
my experience with that episode was because growing up, when playing with the toys, I always had Power Rangers and Ninja Turtles take place in the same universe. So there was just that Saturday morning where I was playing with my Turtles and my Rangers. I had the TV on Power Rangers on ABC Family. Then all of a sudden, there's this episode with Power Rangers and Ninja Turtles together.
So yeah, exactly.
It's like, wait a minute, my headcanon is canon?
That's literally what happened.
So my experience with that is that I was a big fan of Power Rangers and Ninja Turtles around the same time. Is because I have 3 older cousins. They were all 80s kids, and I had a lot of their tapes that they passed down to me as a kid. So I grew up with the 80s series through them. When In Space came out, I was about 4 years old. I'm young compared to you, Jay. But there was this tape that I would watch over and over again. It had a few episodes of In Space and Ninja Turtles: The Next Mutation on it. When that episode episode before the Turtles crossover comes up, and Astronema is talking about we need to beat the Rangers at their own game. Yes, their own game. All of a sudden, it's talking about the Ninja Turtles, and I'm like, wait a second, did the tape that my mom gave me, did she stop recording the episode and now it's an episode of In Space? But I mean, of Ninja Turtles. But no, to my surprise, all of a sudden it's saying next time on Power Rangers in Space, Astronema recruits the Ninja Turtles. I'm like, what? What is going on here?
Oh, I loved it. But
yeah, it's a guilty pleasure of an episode. It's very silly, but it's got a lot of cool moments in it. The thing about it that went after watching the Ninja Turtles: The Next Mutation, and then watching that episode again, you'll notice that a lot of the turtles sound the same for some reason. But the reason for that is because Ninja Turtles: The Next Mutation was actually shot and made in Canada, and I guess they couldn't get every actor to fill their roles for each respective turtle to make them sound different. So some actors ended up taking on a few of the different roles of the turtles and stuff. But getting back, like Trevor said, this is a Power Rangers podcast. As far as In Space goes, like I said, darker themes. There was a big blurred line between, what really constitute as good and evil. Astronema started out as good, but she was raised to be evil, made to believe she is made to be evil, and evil is the way to go. Then she finds out her memories, and all of a sudden, things become a little complicated for her, and she decides, you know what, I'm going to be a good guy now. Then they abduct her and eclipse her, give them some cybernetic equipment, and it's like, I am now programmed to be evil.
It wasn't abducted. That was part of my favorite part of this. That was one of my favorite parts of the storyline. Finding out that Astronema was Corone, was instead Anjo's sister, that he'd been searching for so long. Because once he got her back, she immediately went, oh, they know where Zordon is and all this stuff. Like, I have to go back onto the ship. They don't know I'm good yet. And she was like, I have to go back on the ship. And Andros was like, hell no, absolutely not. I just got you back. There's no way I'm losing you again. And the other Rangers were like, we actually agree with her, dude. Like, there's no other way at this point. And then they just immediately throw up with the thing. So he does just lose her right away again. And I just, and it was, and I'm like, this poor guy, like this poor guy. And that was something I couldn't believe. I was like, they're just getting, like, every way they turn, like every other thing they try to do, they're just getting screwed over. And I loved it. It was one of the first times in the season where I went, this is really, really serious for me, like this show right now.
All of a sudden, things weren't stale anymore. Anything could happen. They may win the battle, but they don't win the war. It's like, that is what a good show with good drama is supposed to have.
Yeah,
where it's
and
not
then I think you guys will agree with me. Psycho Rangers.
God, it's the best part about the friggin' show.
I love the Psycho Rangers. I really do. I got these. So we're talking Psycho Rangers. Yeah. Absolutely. Their aesthetic is just immediately so cool. So cool. You're going to make Evil Rangers. That's how you friggin' do it. That is so cool.
After the disappointment that was the Dark Rangers in Mighty Morphin Season 2, how they basically, I think they ran out of budget after what they did with Lord Zed, and they just give us these Dark Rangers that basically look like putties. I'm just going to say it. Exactly. But with different colors. And because we had... in Season 1, even, we had Commander Crayfish and we had putties turn into Rangers. Yep. Those weren't exactly, our idea of evil Power Rangers. No. We wanted a team that was on equal footing with our heroes, and the Psycho Rangers were that. I remember, I still have it to this day, getting, as a kid, a VHS of Power Rangers in Space. I didn't know what episodes were on there, but it was basically the Psycho Rangers arc, and my brother and I watched those episodes over and over again. And, this was back when, they weren't running reruns of In Space on ABC Family, or Fox Kids was dead in the water soon enough. And this was before they were put on Netflix. So most of what we knew about In Space was from my tapes that I watched over and over again. And that one VHS you could get at the store anywhere.
Exactly.
So, but yeah. And as far as Countdown to Destruction goes,
Well, hold on,
from
the
what
fact
I've
that they
heard, it
also
was
were
actually supposed to
Rangers,
be.
though. To real quick,
What's
the
that?
fact that can we talk about the fact that every one of the Psycho Rangers wasn't like the Power Rangers were humans with these Power Ranger costumes on. These evil Rangers weren't humans inside these Ranger costumes. Every one of them was a specific colored, insane costume monster. Everyone. You know what I mean? Like every Ranger, once they grew, like they were not just a tall version of Psycho Ranger, they were a tall version of the actual monster they were. And every single one of them was a beautiful, over the top monster. Like they went all out on these characters. Like they didn't hold anything back because they could have just grew them. They could have just made them big, tall, monsters. They could have made them mech versions of themselves. Like they instead gave them a counterpart that was a gorgeous monster. Also,
It always
like really were that cool.
Zords from them.
Was that?
It always bothered me that they never gave them Zords.
I like the fact that they were monsters that they didn't have, like they didn't go that way with it. That they were just because, like I said, the team of monsters that they were when they were huge was stunning. It was absolutely stunning. Like I love costume work. You know what I mean? Like I always have, and that was beautiful.
And
Beautiful.
I think it's very clever that they all have represent a different element in their monster forms. Psycho Pink, she's resembles some sort of flower in a way. Psycho Blue, he's an ice monster. Psycho Red is fire. Yellow, for some reason, always reminded me of a bumblebee, or rather a killer bee. But I think it's supposed to be a lightning monster of some sort. And then Psycho Black was just this big rock boulder thing. So.
Yeah, it was great. I really loved it.
As far as the finale goes for In Space, 10 out of 10. Hit out of the park.
Absolutely.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
And from what I heard, it was actually supposed to be 3 parts. And supposedly, we were supposed to get the toy exclusive. We were supposed to get Silver Titanus put in there. Oh. And supposedly the Phantom Ranger's origin, face was going to be revealed, who the heck he was.
I hate it.
The things that could have been.
It was so good. It was so good. The moment she got on the moment Estrada got on the TV con and started talking to the COG army and Zed and Rita and started commanding everyone oh, by the way, this shit's going down right now. And they're like, wait, says who? She's like, says Darth Spectre. I'm like, oh crap. All right, I guess we are gonna do it. I was freaking out. I'm like, wait, what's happening? It was so overwhelming from the start. Right off the start, they were like, oh, by the way, it's all of it. It's happening right now. And then literally my favorite moment of the entire show, almost one of my favorite moments of the entire show, is the Spartacus moment with Bulk and Skull.
Yes, I am the Red Ranger.
That is the moment to me when she's like, I'm killing you all unless the Power Rangers come. And the moment they go to, you hear, hey, and everyone stops as parts. And they're like, wait, what? And out walks Bulk. And he just, I'm the blue Power Ranger. And Skull behind him. Yeah,
I'm the Black Ranger, Professor Phenomenus, which I think is an underrated character, by the way.
Yeah,
Phenomenus is like, I am the Red Ranger.
And then after they get all everyone else, I'm Power Ranger. And then mind you, of course she goes, all right, then kill them all. So it kind of was, it didn't really work out in their favor. But it also
still, it was great. I will admit that is probably outside of actually no. So throughout their history, Bulk and Skull, were just kind of there. They were established as bullies first, then they're trying to find out who the Rangers are, then they're trying to actually be model citizens by being junior police officers, then they're in the detective agency with Detective Stone, then they're just going around doing odd jobs.
Until they end up
there is only one other moment that I can think that was really awesome for Bulk and Skull's character development that no one brings up except Linkara. Even before he established it in his series, I thought this was the best moment before I saw, Countdown to Destruction for In Space. This was the other moment that I thought Bulk and Skull were really good characters. It's in the episode When is a Ranger Not a Ranger with the monster of the week, Scatterbrain. All the Rangers lose their memories, and it's all they got to make sure they get these prisms to bring their powers back as well as get their memories back. And it's Bulk and Skull who find out who the Rangers are. They see this all happening. They see the Rangers lose their memories, and they face the monster of the week. It's like, not so fast, buckaroo. You're not taking the Power Rangers anywhere. Not if we can help it. And Skull says to Bulk, which I hope we can. It was such a brave, awesome moment that, it wouldn't be touched upon until in space when they were like, I am the Blue Ranger, I am the Black Ranger. And then they say, come on, let's get in there and help. Who's with me?
Which was amazing. The fact that, which was amazing, because they finally get their moment where they see all the Power Rangers, because it's immediately after that they just do reveal themselves, and Bulk and Skull finally get that what?
It's them. It's a shame that it couldn't be the original Turbo team in that moment, because it would have been more impactful. Exactly. But at least they knew who those Rangers were.
No, they didn't know who Zane was, really. Yeah. They're like,
they don't know Zane.
Andros wasn't there. But that fight scene that occurred afterwards, that is literally an action fight sequence, which is both the Power Rangers and Bulk and Skull fighting monsters. Like, it was the coolest friggin' thing. Like the fact that and the one Power Ranger's this, and Bulk just runs up and grabs him off, knocks him out, and they're like, you guys are actually doing it. Like, you're actually helping the Power Rangers. There's no more you going, let's help, and then you get knocked over right away like you have in the past. This is an actual battle. Like, you guys are all fighting for the planet right now. It was it was one of my favorite moments of the entire show. That whole sequence, that whole scene that followed out.
It really helped make me love the characters all the more, to see them go from such boring, useless, annoying characters to now characters that I friggin' love. It was just great. And I know why they did it, because they wanted, like I said, to pull out all the stops. It was supposed to be the
They deserved it. They deserved it.
Absolutely they did. But so then In Space ended, and that's where it could have been, the perfect time to end Power Rangers. But as we know, ratings all of a sudden were through the roof again, and they thought, hey, let's start making seasons again, because there's way more toys that we can sell now, and people obviously are interested in Power Rangers again. But let's make it brand new teams every year, like Sentai does. And while it was risky to do that and not do a continuous flowing story anymore, it honestly ends up working out. It's sort of like how Star Trek, even though the original Star Trek series may be very dated by normal standards and stuff like that, it's still fondly remembered as like a big part of history and stuff like that, just like the Mighty Morphin team is known as the quintessential Power Rangers team. Even though there are many other Star Trek series, even though there are many other Power Rangers series, it's that Zordon era that people are going to remember the most. So.
And the way it ends was, gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. But I don't know if any Marvel fans recognize a similarity between Did
that answer your question,
Yeah, because it's beautiful, but it's exactly that. It is exactly that. You've got. I love the whole sequence when Andros is up there fighting with his sister and Ecliptor.
Zordon tells him, "You want this to end? Kill me."
And he literally, and you see him first lead up, and then I can't, and he drops, and I'm like. And my heart's in my mouth at when I'm watching this live, no, absolutely not. You're not do that.
Me myself as a 4-year-old watching this on Fox Kids, I wasn't able to tell time back then too easily. It wasn't until Lost Galaxy where I was able to catch every episode every Saturday morning. Yeah. But every now and then I would catch an episode of Power Rangers in Space, and when I was watching that episode for the first time, I'm like, you better not. No, Andros, I will hate you forever if you do this. But I understand why he had to do it.
Yeah. And the fact that when he did, it just Thanos snapped them all. And although I do love that they spared Rita, Zed, and David Tox, because the moment I saw, when it was boom, it was Thanos thing everyone, and then I saw Rita and Zed there, again, I was like, no! Don't! Please don't! And then I was like, oh, thank God. Because I was pissed. If they would have done that to them, I was mad. I was so mad. So the fact that they just retorted back to people as compared to everyone else who got Thanos snapped.
All right, so that leaves us with conclusions on the Zordon Era as a whole. Now, a lot of people look fondly on the Zordon Era for reasons we've said in this episode. But conclusions. What's everyone's overall thoughts on the Zordon Era?
It's not perfect, but it does have a lot of memorable moments. Like, if you want to get into Power Rangers, I can't exactly say, everything is going to be a hit out of the park. Like even some, like I said before, Mighty Morphin, as memorable as it may be to some people who grew up with it, it's going to be hard for you to get into.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, even if you just wanted to get into In Space, in order to appreciate In Space and really understand In Space, you have to watch Turbo first, which, as we said, isn't the best season. But for like a newcomer, it's a mixed bag. But for longtime fans, if they wanted more exposure and they want, like, let's say they always thought, what if I had continued watching after Mighty Morphin? This is what it's like. You'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
I think
it's what I would go if someone says, "Hey, I know nothing about the Power Rangers. I'd like to watch it and see what it's about." I would not give them a random go. Like, if you really want to watch the Power Rangers, understand the Power Rangers, you're like the American show, watch the Zordon Era. I'll like just watch through these. I'm like, and that will give you like, hey, this is it. This is what the Power Rangers are. From that point on, pick whatever season you want. Because you'll get a whole new thing. But like, this is the only time in every other show, in every other season, given they've started over, you don't get. There's a lot of things that you don't get to connect with the characters or fall in love with them like you did with these shows because they continued through seasons. This team that was built and slowly transformed and new people came on, and like it was just what a progression and performance the entire story is, as compared to, hey, what season do you like? This one, that was a cool story. This one, that was a cool story. Like, to me, I feel like this is, if you want to understand Power Rangers, watch this.
Your results may vary. Your results may vary because no project is without flaw.
No,
but
exactly.
I think overall, it's like 80% good and 20% bad, I'd say.
Yeah.
I personally think that starting with In Space through Wild Force, that's when Power Rangers was at its best.
I mean, I really like the Lost Galaxy storyline. But I didn't really like. I wasn't a huge fan of. I wasn't a huge fan. Like, I liked the way it played out. I didn't like the way it started. Really, like, to go from one. Like I said, I didn't know they were starting over as a kid. I thought I was going to see what happens next. I was like, and then they're going back to Earth. I was like, now they're going back to Earth. Like, what's going on? So when it started here, I was like, okay, this is Starship Troopers meets Sword in the Stone meets Power Rangers. Like, I was very not on board with it right off the bat.
It's funny he mentioned Starship Troopers, considering that it was the same movie that they got the Terra Venture suits from.
Like I said, like, that's exactly what I'm watching right now, and I was not thrilled about it.
Hey, I know people who watch Lost Galaxy, they're non-Power Ranger fans, and they think this is the best Power Ranger series that they see. Like, they see stuff like Lost Galaxy or Lightspeed Rescue or Time Force, and they think these are, like, the best Power Ranger series to get into. Because those standalone seasons, they're basically Power Rangers with, like, a little bit of an edge. Those series, if you remember, they're not as cheesy. They're not as kid-friendly. Like, they are still kid-friendly, but they're not as, pandering to their audience as other seasons.
One of the cool things about Lost Galaxy was they did what, like, halfway through the season, give us Corona as the Pink Ranger.
Mm-hmm.
My second favorite Ranger of all time.
Yeah, which was awesome. Which was super awesome to me. The fact that I was like, and then you finally get like, this to me was I was glad because I went, here's what I wanted. This is a glimpse of what I wanted. A continuation of characters from.
I mean, and they still use the mega ship, so.
Yeah, exactly. That was also one of the things that saved it for me, was the fact that they went into the mega ship, and Damon, he's my favorite of them all. Between him and he's my favorite of Galaxy Rangers.
He's the one I want to cosplay.
He's like, because like one, he's the mechanic, which is great. He's the one who got it off the ground in the first place, which I thought was so cool. They just took the museum, but he to me is the best person out of them. Like, he just seems like he's the, like Leo is. That's one of the things that bothers me. I go, Leo, his problem with him is also my problem with him. Leo going like, well, Mike, you pulled the sword. Like, it's not supposed to be me. And all of a sudden I go, yeah, same, dude. I'm like, you were like a stowaway. You were being like a total dick. Like, you suck.
But hold on a second there, buddy. Hold on. I gotta defend Leo a bit here. And Leo's my favorite Ranger from Lost Galaxy because I think he personally has the best character development of them. Yes, he was very flawed. He was very headstrong and very impulsive and liked to do whatever the heck he wanted. But as he went on, after Mike came back especially, he really became one of the best Red Rangers of all time. Even for all his flaws, even in the first episode, Leo does help that old woman, keep her passport and stuff like that. So it shows us that he's got a good heart. He's got a lot of growing up to do, but his heart is in the right place.
But I love Damon. I think the other ones seem so plain and just Damon's he's such a good guy. He's just such a good guy in every way, shape, and form. I think
he's the voice of reason of the team, personally. He's not so much the voice of reason. I think he's more of the realist of the team.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but I give credit to Leo's toy for having the best face. I swear, it's more like Leo accurate, I must say, than any toy I've had of any Ranger. That is definitely Leo's face to a T. And other Ranger toys I have, I go, oh, it's kind of his face. That's kind of that's not Zach's face at all. And that is Leo to a friggin' T. I was impressed. Good toy.
Personally, as far as the Zordon Era goes, I recommend it with a pinch of salt. Don't expect MCU levels of awesomeness. Of course.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, except for that ending,
Yeah. Now, when it comes to the Sentai counterparts of the Zordon Era, Jew Ranger, Die Ranger, Kaku Ranger, Car Ranger, O Ranger, I meant to do it in order, but I effed up. But
okay.
And Mega Ranger. It's hard to say which of those series is the best. For me, it's probably Mega Ranger, just because I remember it the best.
Bias. I'm kidding, man. I'm kidding. But no, Sentai is cool because every series is different from another. Most Sentai series don't, have a connecting story from the next series and stuff like that. It's a brand new set of characters. So it's if you don't like this team, you have another team, and if you don't like that team, you have another team.
Yeah, exactly.
So for someone like yourself, Trevor, who is a big gamer, yeah. The Mega Ranger is going to sit well with someone like you. For someone who's a big fan of dinosaurs, or is a big fan of fantasy elements, someone's obviously going to gravitate more towards Zhu Ranger than something like O Ranger, which is very technology based. If you're into, man versus machine storylines, something like O Ranger is for you. So it's all
And then if you like animals and spiritualness, then you're gonna like Die Ranger.
Absolutely, yes.
I did forget though with the crown, but that was the aesthetic. It was like the steampunk Egyptian aesthetic, and I went, "That is the coolest friggin' thing." They have the steampunk cog army. That. I loved it. Just the aesthetic of Zeo minus the star was my favorite thing in the world.
Yeah.
You will not forgive them for the star.
No, I won't do it.
All right, so hope you enjoyed this episode of Super Sentai Power Hour, talking about the Zordon Era. Like, subscribe, hit the bell. I'm Trevor.
I'm Anthony.
Oh, Jay.
Brandon, and for Ranger X. If any of you guys have a cool internet name, just say it.
Jay Nam. It's my only handle. Only ever is.
All right, and hope you come back for the next episode. Have a good one, everybody.
May the power protect you all.